The Dukes of Dice are brought to you by Tasty Minstrel Games and Arcane Wonders. Check out all their awesome titles at playtmg.com and arcanewonders.com.
Welcome to the Duchy. It's time for another episode of the Dukes of Dice podcast, a proud member of the Dice Tower Network.
Coming to you from the Duchy in the Duke City, Albuquerque, New Mexico, it's the Dukes of Dice, a podcast about board, card, and occasionally role-playing games. Today, the Dukes review Capstone Games' Three Kingdoms Redux, and then they take a look back at Arkwright in their Dukes Double-Take. And now, the Dukes of Dice.
Hey there, everybody. Welcome back to the podcast. This is Sean.
And Alex.
And this is episode 154, which we're calling Han Bought First.
We are a sucker for a good Star Wars reference.
For a good Star Wars reference. So this title is courtesy of Board Game Jeff over on BGG, also known as Moe's Jiff. So we name all of our episodes with help from our Board Game Geek Guild, so definitely go check that out. But this is perfect because it's referencing the kind of meta Star Wars reference that Han shot first, because later when George Lucas recut A New Hope in the 90s, I think, or was it earlier they did it, he had Greedo shooting Han first. But it's like, no, Han is a bastard. Can I say that on the Dice Tower Network?
I don't know.
Well, I am.
Yeah, okay.
Right? Han is a scoundrel, and you need to be surprised when he actually comes back. And by the way, spoilers for A New Hope. When he comes back at the end in the trench run, you need to not think that he's gone. You need to think he's gone, right? When he leaves the rebellion.
That he's all about himself.
He's all about himself. Yep. And if Han doesn't shoot first, that's... Anyway... So yeah, perfect title. Han Bought First. Han referring to the Han Dynasty, which is kind of the centerpiece of Three Kingdoms Redux, which we're reviewing. The purchasing referring to Arkwright. So 2 Capstone Games this episode, Alex.
Woo!
It's kind of funny. Last week we had two Arcane Wonders games. The review and the double take, and same thing this week. Kind of an interesting cycle of when we get review copies of games from the same companies.
Right. Yeah, and I don't think the timing of that was totally intentional necessarily.
No, not at all.
Although I did love the episode title suggestion on the Guild of "This one's for Alex."
Yeah.
Because this one's definitely not for Alex. Neither game. But we'll get to that. We'll get to that one later. Go to our Board Game Geek Guild. A lot of first-time namers, including, in this case, Board Game Jeff. This was his first time ever suggesting an episode title.
Yeah.
And he ended up winning. So that could be you.
It sure can. And you could win all the prizes. And by all, I mean none, because it's just for bragging rights.
But speaking of prizes, we have our 3rd anniversary episode coming up next episode.
Did you like how I teed you up for that?
I did.
I'm your podcast caddy.
Sure.
Okay.
What do you suggest for this next segment?
Use your 7-iron, okay?
Okay, got it.
All right?
Well, I'm on the green. Doesn't make a ton of sense, but I'll give it a shot.
But I just teed you up.
What?
Yeah, I teed you up.
Oh, you put the ball on the tee?
Yeah.
Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah, so you're not on the green.
What if it's the shortest?
You're not shooting for eagle.
What if we're playing mini golf? I don't know why we're using a tee for mini golf.
Yeah, I don't know.
This is ridiculous and off the rails.
Hey, let's go back to that excellent segue. Speaking of prizes.
Yeah. So, we've already started to spill a little bit about some of the prizes that will be included in a big group of prizes we're going to have. Contest details to be announced in full next week. But, Sean, you wanted to tip our hands to one game at a time. So the one I will tip our hands to this time is Renegade Games has graciously agreed to provide a copy of one of my favorite games of the year, of Flippity Flip Ships.
Flippity Flip Ships.
Flippity Flip Ships, the game about flipping and ships and ship flipping.
Alex, happy flip ships.
Happy what?
Deep cuts, folks.
Yeah,
not really.
That will make no sense to new listeners.
Yeah,
anyway,
sorry, new listeners.
So, a whole bundle of games. Again, I will give the advice to folks, get in the guild if you're not already, because that could be a big part of this giveaway. And one of those giveaways is going to entail your top 10 next week.
Oh, is it now?
We literally just had a 10-minute conversation that no one's going to hear.
A Prater-esque discussion.
Kind of, yeah, where I ended up turning on a dime. So Sean's going to post his 40 favorite games of all time.
Yeah.
In the guild. By the time you're hearing this, you're going to have a few days to get this done.
Yeah, it'll be up. It'll be up today.
Sure.
As of recording. But yeah, it'll be there.
And your job is to guess Sean's top 10, and whoever's closest to it is going to win one of the prizes.
Yes, indeed.
So stay tuned for that, but that's one of the ways you can win, and there will be many more announced to come. But as we mentioned, guild-focused, guild-centered, so keep your eyes there and keep your ears here. Cool.
Yeah, on the Dukes of Dice.
Ooh. All right. Well, this has been an interesting one to start. Hey, Sean, what have you been playing this week?
So I got something in from our friends over at Capstone Games. Hey, this is the Capstone Games episode.
Man.
Apparently.
Not an actual sponsor.
No. So Capstone is re-releasing The Climbers. And what they're doing is they're sending this around. It's on this reviewer tour. So we just got it from Board Game Blitz, and then I think we're sending it on either to Heavy Cardboard or to Board Game Corner. Not sure which. That's kind of in the works. But anyway, we're involved in this, and I got to play this last night. Dukes of Dice date night, which was me, Raquel, and Rory.
Hey.
Yeah. So after we played our final game of Three Kingdoms Redux, I said I brought The Climbers. We should totally try this out. This is part of their new Simply Complex line, where it's simple games. Like it's a filler game in many respects, but it's really thinky, really good. We were all in love with this game. So let me explain it. It kind of looks like a dexterity game because it's these different size blocks, and they're different colors. There's six different colors. The 5 match the 5 player pieces, and then there's a neutral color. And the idea is that you're building this structure kind of all willy-nilly, and your little climbers, these little wooden people, they're not meeples, these weeples, start on the bottom of the structure, and what you're trying to do is you're trying to move them up level 1 height at a time. So basically the lowest level block. But to do that, they have to move onto a matching space, because all of these blocks, right, they all have 6 sides, they all have the 6 different colors. So if I'm the blue player, I need to move onto a blue space. And if I can chain multiple blue spaces together, going up, I can go boom, 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 and I move up. Now, what I'm able to also do is pick one block that is not covered by other blocks, that is not occupied by another player, and I can pick that up, move it anywhere I want into some sort of like legal placement, and rotate it in such a way that a color of my choice is at the top. And what's kind of cool is that as you're moving these things, other players can kind of move out of turn. If like suddenly I revealed a color of theirs, they can just kind of jump up after my turn's complete and then take their regular turn. So the game will end once a full round goes by where no one has had any upward advancement. And then whoever is at the highest level is the winner. Now what's cool too is you also have 3 other components. You have a blocking disc. So for a round, no one can move that block that you place the disc on or move onto that block. You also have 2 ladders. You have a level 2 ladder and a level 4 ladder, which is the highest size block, and they're all one use only. So you can use this ladder to get you way up to the higher level, but then it's gone. Alex, this game is awesome. This game is really, really good, and I am super excited for it. And hopefully, we're going to have a chance to play this later today. It's
Hopefully?
quick. Yeah. What do you think? How's that sound?
No, it sounds good. It sounds the perfect length of time and the right weight, and unlike a lot of other Capstone games.
Oh,
sorry, Capstone.
So this isn't currently available, but it's going to be widely available, I believe, in Q4. Right now, there's a lot of people that were able to reserve this at Gen Con, but I think they've already sold through the print run.
Wow.
Yeah, because this is highly anticipated. It's really colorful, really cool. So when this becomes available, you should definitely go check out The Climbers from Capstone.
Excellent. So I got into play of a game called Spires the other day at Empire Board Game Library, the local shop here in Albuquerque. And this is designed by T.C. Petty III, who also did Xenon Profiteer.
Not to be confused with T.C. Petty II.
Correct. Yeah, who did Xenon Oldateer? That doesn't make any sense. Awful.
I'm gonna leave that one alone.
Bad, terrible, bad. Published by Nevermore Games, and this, Sean, combines a lot of things that you like, for sure. It combines hand management, it combines a little bit of set collection, some trick-taking in there, and it's an interesting play. It mixes all of those mechanics. Basically, you're trying to build spires in different colors. Anything 3 cards or under will score you points. Once you go above 3 cards, each card in that set will then count against you. You're also trying to win majorities in different not suits, but different types of cards, so crowns and I think spears or something along those lines. Whoever has the majority in those is going to get bonus points. Additionally, you can also grab cards from the table that will just give you endgame points or allow you to discard cards. On top of that, anything left in your hand at the end of the game gets dumped right in front of you, as we've seen in a couple of other games recently. So, yeah, that hand management, it's that action selection, it's fighting over cards. If two people are going head-to-head over cards, they'll do sort of a mini trick-taking round over those cards. You haven't played this one yet, right?
No, I
Sean?
kickstarted it. I have it upstairs, just haven't gotten to the table yet. I'm very excited for it. I mean, I backed it.
I think you're going to like it a lot.
Yeah.
It's definitely your kind of game. For me, I think they're just other trick takers I'm going to play above this one. I think, though, Sean, for your taste, this is going to fit right in.
So, Alex, if you were to guess which trick-taking game is on my top 40 list, which would it be?
Is this on the list that you sent out the other day?
Oh, yeah, you saw it.
Well, but here's the bad part. I didn't actually look at it closely enough. I looked at it closely enough to notice you had duplicates on there.
I did.
But that's about it.
I did.
So, no, Sean, which one is it?
It's Skull King. Ooh.
Oh, yeah, I should have guessed that. Yeah, Skull King's pretty good.
Yeah.
It is pretty good. All right, so that is Spires, published by Nevermore Games.
So I got to get out an oldie but a goodie. We had a Thursday night, which is normally when we record. We're recording the Saturday morning, which used to be what we normally recorded. And so Thursday night, actually, my mom had taken the girls out. And so Raquel and I were like, hey, we have the house to ourselves. Why don't we bust out some Concordia?
You know what's funny to me? Is I'm actually thinking the steamier, quote unquote, steamier date night for you guys would have been a Feld. The fact that a Feld didn't hit the table is a little shocking to me.
We'd actually managed to play Bora Bora the week before at Dukes of Dice date night.
Okay.
So we were good. We were good on Felds. I was actually really trying very hard to get her to play Combat Commander that night. I'm like, well, you should just try it. Look, I just need you to kind of have a glass of wine, just relax.
No.
We'll just kind of ease into some Combat Commander.
Wow.
But no, she was not for Combat Commander that night, which is fine. By the way, I did get another play of it in with Rory last Sunday. We're gonna get in a play of it tomorrow. Any thoughts whether Combat Commander might be on my top 40 list, Alex?
It is.
I think it is. It's pretty awesome. I haven't gotten enough plays of it. I don't know they can make the top 10. But
there's a chance.
I love this game. Anyway, let's talk about another game that starts with a C, Concordia. So we reviewed Concordia way back in, I don't know, like episode 5, episode 6.
Something along those lines.
And it gets pulled out every so often, but it probably hasn't been out at least in the last year and a half. And there's been a lot of expansions that have come out. There's the Britannia expansion, I think, and the Salsa expansion. And I haven't played those. I've wanted to. Nothing's really held me back from them. Just hasn't happened. And what's nice about Concordia is it plays 5, I believe, but it also is a double-sided map. So there's the Italy side, which is great for 2 players. So that's what we did. We played some Concordia, and this is a fantastic, it's kind of a hand management game. It's a hand building, not deck building. And what you're trying to do is you're trying to expand from Rome out to the various regions of Italy or Mediterranean in the case of the full-size map. And you're trying to build these different control houses at the different cities. The different cities can provide different resources. And the main mechanism here is playing cards from your hand. And I figure, we've talked about this before, but it's been a while since we've talked about Concordia. So we have a lot of new listeners that may have never heard our thoughts on the game. And so the cards that you play, you start with the similar hand or same hand as everyone else. There are cards that let you trade resources or buy or sell resources. There are cards that let you use this cool mechanic it's the prefect, which lets you flip certain tokens that are associated with certain regions to get those types of resources. But then those regions produce if people already have houses on the cities in that region, which give you then more resources, but potentially give your opponents resources as well. There are cards that let you move your colonists to along the different trade routes and then have them build near adjacent cities. And then you're continually buying these new cards with senators and consuls that are letting you have bigger effects or just multiple effects that you start off with maybe only 1 or 2 of. The game ends when either someone puts out all 15 of their houses or the last card is purchased from the cards that you play out. I love this game, Alex. I think I gave it a 5.
Yeah.
And it's still a very solid 5. It's not It's not encroaching on a 6. I don't know if some of the expansions, because they add some other mechanics, might make it become a 6. I doubt it. I think 5, a solid 5 is where this game stays. I thought I was murdering Raquel, just killing her. But no, she got me by like 3 points or so.
Wow.
Yeah. So it was a close game. I love this game. It's really good. I need to play it more.
I've been impressed by the game's staying power. It seems to be suggested a lot, especially at cons. I've seen Max play this one a lot. I've seen you bring this one to the table quite a bit. Certainly for the games of that year in the Kennerspiel, it's lasted the longest.
So you know what I kind of associate with in my mind? Power Grid. In terms of the staying power, in terms of the ease of teach, length of play, depth. I don't know.
I'd rather play Power Grid any day over Concordia, just for my taste.
Yeah, and that's fine. I'd rather play Concordia, but I just they're linked in my mind like they're easy. It's easy to convince people to play them. Like when you're kind of looking around at a shelf of games, what are we going to play? Both Power Grid and Concordia are games that I feel like you can kind of talk people into pretty easily.
I can see that.
Unlike Combat Commander.
You'll get her next time, Sean.
Maybe.
You'll get her next time.
That's okay. Tomorrow, Rory and I will.
Oh, boy.
We'll Combat Command it up.
Excellent. Excellent.
So anyway, that's Concordia, which I believe is from Rio Grande Games. I mean, it was when I bought it. Who knows what it is now?
Excellent. I got in a play of something from Osprey Games that we got from them not too long ago, right, Sean?
Yeah.
This was Zubal.
Zubal,
the king of sports. This is a very, very, very light dexterity game.
Yes.
It's you have these little discs with animal stickers on them. You choose how to assign the teams, but there's actually more stickers than you have little discs to put them on.
Do you find it a little depressing that those stickers are going to stay on that page forever?
Unselected, undrafted?
It's sad.
Yeah, well, I mean, as they're backups, I guess, in case a sticker gets torn or if one of the discs gets dipped in a coffee somehow.
Dipped in a coffee.
Yeah,
you made it look like you were dunking a donut.
No, so what you
what?
Or an Oreo and scenario. Milk. Someone has a cup of coffee on the ground for whatever reason, and someone flicks one of these discs off the table and it lands square on the coffee.
Okay,
that's how that happens.
All right.
Yep. So in Zubal, you have a team of 3 blockers and a scorer. Your objective, and on your turn, you're either moving all 3 of the blockers or the scorer. Your objective is to get your scorer into the opposite goal, completely inside the opposite goal. You're supposed to use the blockers to smack other discs around, knock people off the table, get in people's way. We played this 4-player. We played a couple of rounds of it, and very light, silly game. And I think it works well as a dexterity game for sure.
Yeah, we were calling it kind of kitty crokinole.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, because so Chewy, my daughter, she's 3. She can flick crokinole around, but she's not going to be actually playing crokinole for several years. This game, I think she's not quite there at 3, but I think in a year she could absolutely be playing this.
Like with proper rules. With
proper rules, right? Like I can tell her, hey, you need to flick this in here. She just wants to flick them and see what happens.
Sure,
which is fine. But we had a lot of fun with it. Like it's light. It's simple
and fast,
which is good. And it plays, like you said, 2 players and 4 players. We were kind of playing 4 players. It's pretty chaotic. It comes with this nice felt board or mat. I don't know, 2x2, I think, 2.5 by 2.5.
Sure, sounds right.
Somewhere in there. And I think it's a solid production. I think that is this something you would play when you're drinking? In your mind?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
I could see having fun.
Some adult beverages?
Absolutely.
Okay. But then also a kid's game, which is kind of...
I think, by the way, most dexterity games tend to be pretty good to play with an adult beverage of some kind.
Really? Flip ships? You play that?
Oh, yes.
What?
Oh, in a heartbeat.
The fate of the world is on your shoulders, Alex. There is no time to be under the influence of any intoxicating beverage or substance.
Flip ships, first mention.
No, jeez. No.
What? I mean,
no.
It might be my new Baseball Highlights 2045 first mention.
If you want to replace it,
I'm not replacing it.
Okay. You get 1, Alex. You get 1.
I kind of have 3 going, sort of.
What's the third?
2 current, but the third one is I can't even remember it. I think that probably doesn't count. Throwing people in volcanoes or Downfall of Pompeii.
Oh, you haven't mentioned that in like a year.
Well, I just mentioned it now.
Wait, you realize that you actually said Baseball Highlights without then saying first mention?
I did say first mention. Actually,
did
you just didn't hear me.
Okay,
yeah, listen to the tape.
We'll roll the tape back.
Okay.
And we'll see. If you didn't, though...
I did.
Okay, I'm just saying if you didn't.
I did.
Do you want to say one now just to be sure, just to be safe?
No, because you can just take the first mention. I just did. Dang it. Dang it, Sean Ramirez. All right, that's what we've been playing this week. Let's head on over to the news desk. All right, first up in news, some news tied to the new Kennerspiel King. That is the Exit Games series. And Sean, coming in October, we got 3 more of these guys coming out.
Yeah, so I better hurry up and play the third one, in the science lab or in the lab one.
Yeah, in the lab.
In the lab?
I think, or am I thinking
that's Pandemic.
Yeah, exactly.
Anyway, so I've played 2 of the 3, need to play that third one. Really enjoying the series from Cosmos. So there are 3 new ones, like you said, The Forbidden Castle, The Forgotten Island, and The Polar Station. Ooh. So just a little blurb here. In the Polar Station, an alarm sounded in the eternal ice. So the Polar Station has been evacuated and foreclosed. Foreclosed, really? Okay. But a small group of researchers has remained behind by mistake, and they have only 1 hour to find the code that will crack the lock program. Dun, dun, dun.
The problem for retailers in selling this one is they have to actually have the game chilled and frozen. So you have to buy a nice little freezer
refrigerated
space. Yeah, it's gonna be an issue.
All right. For board game cafes, it's easy.
Yeah,
that's no problem.
But retailers, otherwise, you might have some problems.
In the Forbidden Castle, the castle is the highlight of the hike, but hardly have the hikers entered the old walls when the squeaky doors close. Escape appears impossible. But the strange hints may lead players in a new direction. Can they solve the riddles and find the way to freedom? Can they, Alex?
I hope so.
Okay. And then the Forgotten Island has stuff too.
Excellent. Well done. So, Sean, you've played 2 of the 3. Are you likely to hop on board and kind of play the complete set? Is this something where you want to play every Exit game you can?
Yeah, I think so. Not in a completionist sense, but in the sense that if they keep pumping more out and they're still enjoyable, yeah, absolutely.
Cool.
Yeah. So, I mean, I imagine that every couple Wednesday nights we'll just kind of, crack one out this week, and then maybe a month later we'll crack out another one. And for $15 MSRP, right?
Yep.
Yeah. No, it's a great experience.
Based on the bump that a Kennerspiel winner is going to get, a Spiel or Kennerspiel winner for that matter, not surprising to see more of these announced pretty quickly.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool. So next up, we're going to Kickstarter. Gameception is what we're talking about. This is a game outside of a game.
It's a meta game.
It is. It is a meta game. I'll read the description. Tired of having to choose what game to play? Why not play more than one at the same time? Sure, those other games are great. That's why Gameception wants you to continue playing those while you play it. It's the metagame that plays all day.
So is this going to let me play Zolkin and Russian Railroads at the same time, which I still really want to do?
Wow. No, I don't think it does that. What it does do is it will have cards in it like, say, the singer. If someone sings a song, not you, if someone else sings a song, you put the card down and you score the point. Or if someone tells a player what to do on their turn, you reveal that card and score a point. If there was a card in this one, for instance, for me, if moves another player's pieces,
I was already going
then
there.
I would, whoever had that card would probably be doing pretty dang well. So, yeah, this is basically trying to look at things that might happen on game night. If someone vetoes a suggestion for a game, that was one I saw in there as well. It's a way to add a gamery element to game night.
Yeah.
Which, to me, I'm surprised hasn't been done before. It's a cool idea.
Yeah, so I remember waiting tables. We used to play a game over a shift, and I can't remember what it was called, but it was basically it was like a deck of cards, and we would hand them out, and you would like try and get people to like point to their heart. Like they had to like if someone looked at your finger when they pointed to your heart or something like that, then you killed them. They were out.
Oh.
And it was like meant to be this fun thing you did while you were working the shift. And there's more details. I'm completely misremembering a lot of it. But I like this idea, this concept of let's gamify the game night itself. I think that's really cool. I actually got to see some of these cards at Dice Tower Con. So this is from Triumvirate Games, but they're friends with Mark Sirens from Vile Genius Games, and so he showed me some of these cards and said, hey, I just helping these guys out, want to, have you take a look at these. And so I think it's a really cool concept. What does it take to get involved here, Alex?
So the pledge levels vary pretty wildly. On the very low end of this, $9 mini game version. So there's a small set of these cards that for a small game night
30.
should be fine. It'll cover you. If you want to go $19, that'll get you 90 cards. It includes the full game with an expansion to it as well. And then if you want to go really crazy with this, for $69, you can add personalized cards, 30 personalized cards. And I think part of what's going to be interesting with that is if a game group has inside jokes or something keeps coming up. You know, for instance, if someone mentions baseball highlights 2045, score this card.
Yeah,
that would be one that would fit with our group, and I could see that being a thing that some gamer groups would do. So yeah, kind of a wide range of backing levels for this one. Sean, I asked the question I always ask. Where are you at with this one? You backing?
Yeah, it's not bad. So $19. I'm thinking it's shipping is probably I think it's including shipping in the U.S.
Wow.
So 19. Yeah, I think I'm probably going to back this because
Cool.
it sounds like fun. I mean, I don't know how often we do it, although it might be a fun thing to try at Wednesday night Dukes Dice game night
For sure.
So yeah, I think I'm in. The price point's right,
Excellent.
and it's different, and it's a different thing.
As of the time of this recording, it's raised more than its $2,500 goal. I think I had it at about $3,600 last time I checked. It runs through August 23rd, so you got a few weeks to get on this one if you want to try that out. Again, that's Gameception, now on Kickstarter. That does not wrap our news segment, though.
What?
Sorry, Sean. So this is another bit of Alex news, and I don't know. So we had this long conversation, most of which folks may not hear, where I went in about being self-centered, right? Yeah.
Go on.
I was accusing Sean of being too self-centered with the contest proposal before
boy.
ultimately turning around.
Yep.
Hey, here's some self-centered news.
Yep.
Incredibly self-centered news. I'm going to give the Cliff's Notes version, and my guess is we'll probably talk a little bit more about this during the anniversary episode during the State of the Duchy.
Okay.
Is my guess. So I've been back in New Mexico following my ducal hiatus. Got back in late April, and during that time, I have been living in my parents' guest house and looking for things to do and not being super successful at it. I've looked in a number of different realms of things to do, whether that be possibly politically consulting. That's why I didn't get that job. I called it politically consulting.
I didn't know the name of the job.
I didn't know what the job was, and they said, "Sorry, that disqualifies you." No, some political consulting work. I used to do some coverage of that back when I was a news anchor. Also looked at possibly getting into the board game cafe side of things. There were a couple of different things that came up at different times, none of which really ever stuck. And I've been in a pretty rough place as a result of that. I'm not used to being back at my folks' place. I'm not used to not working. I'm not used to any of that stuff. And all of it's self-caused. This isn't something that was forced upon me. I didn't get laid off. I chose to quit the last job. I chose to take a trip. I'm choosing to be in my parents' guest house. I think the realization has been that a lot of these days I was not leaving the house. Mm-hmm. Unless there was a Dukes of Dice game night to come to or the recording session. Oftentimes besides that, Sean, other than maybe a grocery store trip from time to time, I wasn't getting out of the house.
Yeah.
And it wasn't good. It was not healthy for me. And it's been building and building and building, and quite frankly, depression's kind of crept into the mix for me. And
Sure.
it's not something I'm super used to dealing with, especially not something on a consistent basis. So, in the Alex formula of just shaking things up like crazy, the day after we record the 3rd anniversary podcast, I am going to be hopping in my car and driving across the country on a wild adventure. First stop, going to see Mike Fitzgerald up in Colorado. I may stop through St. Louis and say hi to some folks there. May continue east and ultimately going to make my way to Quebec to see my special friend up there.
Does she know
I love
you
that
call
term,
her,
special friend.
Does she know you call her your special friend?
I think she would find it pretty amusing.
Okay.
Anyway. So now the difference between this move and the past move is unlike the past move where I was overseas in Southeast Asia, not super reachable, not in any place to play games. I am going to continue on this podcast. Mm-hmm. There's no intention of leaving. There's no intention of going on a hiatus, having Sean fill in with a bunch of guest hosts, or having Sean just wholesale replace me.
Yeah.
Okay. We'll see. So that's the intent at this point. Now, State of the Duchy, we may talk about some other changes coming that are based on not only this, but some other factors, but nothing that's podcast threatening that's going to end the podcast as we know it, if that makes any sense. But the bottom line is, and I'm a bit sad about this in some ways, I'm going to be leaving New Mexico, and I do not know when I'm going to be coming back. Mm-hmm. I just don't know. I have a job possibility that may have me moving at some point. I'm not likely to hear about that until after Gen Con. So we'll see if that comes through. I'm going to be looking for other stuff in the meantime. I'm not going to just kind of sit back and rest. But yeah, I'm going to miss the game group. As that's not the reason I'm doing this. I'm not trying to get away from Empire or any of that kind of stuff.
Well, you said you were trying to get away from Cameron specifically.
Frickin' Cameron.
Yeah.
God.
That guy.
No. In fact, that's the part I'm going to miss. It's the part I missed most during my trip around the world. It's
Cameron.
Yes, Cameron specifically. Oh, he's going to love these shout-outs.
Yep. He's going to be like, what did I do?
What did I do? Beat me all the time, Cameron, which we'll talk about actually pretty soon from now.
Yeah.
Yeah. But no, I'm going to miss the game group in Albuquerque. My folks still live in Santa Fe. I'm sure I'm going to be back here from time to time. But again, I don't know when. I want to reemphasize this. I'm not leaving the podcast.
Yes, because your post in the guild made it sound like...
Yeah. So I appreciate all the support I got in the guild, by the way. A lot of folks with a ton of support, as the guild's always been supportive in these situations for me. I'm just sorry that I'm in these kinds of situations so often these days.
So let me ask you something. And
yes.
Obviously, the choice to go back to your parents' guest house was a financial choice while you were trying to figure out what you're trying to do. Do you think that had you been here in Albuquerque and a little bit like closer to the center of your prior life, would that have made a difference?
Possibly.
Yeah. It's
possible. I think ultimately the move out of New Mexico was going to happen at some point.
Yeah, I figured.
That I think it would have made the time that I've had more enjoyable, I think, to be in Albuquerque rather than be up in Santa Fe. But it was a financial decision and did, when you're not working, save me a good chunk of money. Plus my folks are there and I love my folks. So yeah.
Your dad will play flip ships with you.
He will actually play flip ships with me.
Yeah.
Second mention.
Oh, jeez.
Third mention, I think, at this point.
Yeah,
actually.
well.
Anyway.
So, I mean, I think we can kind of talk about the plan for the podcast. The plan's going to be, and this may meet with some disappointment, but we're going to be going bi-weekly starting in September. So August 28th, I believe, will be our last weekly episode, and then we'll be going to bi-weekly. So we'll take off the first week in September, and then we'll be bi-weekly from there. So we've got our 30th anniversary episode coming up next week. We've got some kind of Gen Con episode coming up. We're going to be talking about some restoration games. So we've got a month of weekly podcasts.
And we're both going to be at Gen Con, which will be pretty cool.
Oh, well, you were kind of up in the air about Gen Con.
Nope, I'm going to be there.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Hooray.
Hooray.
That's me, always finding things that last.
Yeah, and Sean, we've talked about this off air, but this isn't just about me heading out of the state. It certainly puts some pressure on trying to do a weekly show, but that's not the only reason this is happening.
Right. Well, and I think, as awesome as it was having all of the special media guests, and I appreciate, all of them taking the time to help us out, and then all of our local crew who helped fill in while you were away, it did create a ton more work during that time period. And in addition, I'm like, hey, I'm going to start up this whole video thing too, because I was trying to You're trying
to make up for me not being there.
Right. I was worried that we were going to lose listeners, and I wanted to see if we can get, I don't know. And so I think that insane schedule that I had, the after effects, like family, work-wise, kind of had a delayed effect. And I mean, for the most part, I haven't had Saturdays in 3 years, with some exceptions. Because that's, we record, I do the edit. Sometimes they're quick edits, sometimes they're 19-hour edits, which was crazy.
Thanks, Boards Alive.
I think that this is a good time. We've done we will have done 3 years of weekly episodes.
With 1 week off during that time.
With 1 week off. Yeah, 1 week off. And I think that this is probably a good point to transition to bi-weekly. Certainly the idea of doing a weekly review is really difficult when we're separated. I mean, like, I don't even know how we're going to work out review copies, right? It's easy enough for us to get a review copy here. We play together. How does that work when you're elsewhere? And when you're and frankly, we don't know where elsewhere is right now.
I have a pretty good sense, and I know that the places I'm likely to be will have a board game cafe or a place with a good selection of games. So, for instance, I'm driving up to Quebec. I know they have actually a pretty awesome board game cafe.
Yeah.
So we'll see how that goes. Reading through French rule books could be a little bit tricky.
Yeah. Brush up on your French.
I have been practicing French every day for the last month and a half, actually.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'm brushing up for sure. Anyway. And obviously, Sean, you have a family. I mean,
I do.
You have.
I sure do.
You have Choose, who we can sort of occasionally hear upstairs. She made a nice cameo the other week.
Yeah.
But you have a lot of stuff going on. You're a lawyer.
I am. Sean Ramirez, attorney at law.
Yes, and a lawyer, a family guy. But not Peter Griffin Family Guy, just a family guy.
A family guy, not the family guy.
A family guy. And you're editing a podcast, and it's a lot of work, and you've been doing most of it.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, 3 years is a long time.
It is a good chunk of time. Yeah. It's a good chunk of life to be doing that. But I think we both have so much fun with the podcast. I don't think either of us wants that to end.
Right.
It's gonna be a little weird going bi-weekly, I think.
It's gonna be weird.
Because this has been such an ingrained part of the schedule for both of us.
Yeah.
To have it be untied a little more from life. I think it'll work out just fine. I'm curious how it's going to go.
I will feel better when you've settled down somewhere. I will be more stressed out than you are.
Okay.
While you're wandering around.
The good news is there's a significant possibility that by the time we're going bi-weekly, I will have settled down.
Sure.
Now, there's a chance that all falls apart and blows up in my face, too.
Yes.
I don't want to jinx anything.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So that's the news, both board game news and our news. And off of that downer note, let's head over to the review. Well, Sean, I'm packing my bags.
Oh, you're leaving again?
Yeah, I'm going to Kyoto.
Okay, that seems weird.
With my army.
You have an army now?
Yeah, I do.
Are you
an army of fans?
15% maybe.
Hey, that's a good number.
Yeah.
All right. No, but I'm talking not about actual travel for once. I'm talking about Jiraku. Soon-to-be released game from Tasty Minstrel Games.
Oh, you're not being literal. I was so confused.
Yeah.
Ads are hard, Alex.
So in Jiraku, you are trying to play out armies to the board and control different territories of Japan with the ultimate goal of dominating Kyoto.
So what's interesting here, Alex, is unlike a lot of area control games, the main mechanic here is trick-taking. Yeah, that's right. You heard me. Trick-taking. It's a trick-taking area control game. Area control and trick-taking. How many times can I say trick-taking, Alex?
Several. Not an infinite number, but a good number.
So it's pretty interesting, right? I mean, because you don't typically see that kind of combination.
And it works really well.
It does. In fact, you have played this. You played this in your travels. I actually imported the copy before Tasty Minstrel Games was nice enough to kind of do that work for our listeners out there, which is going to be happening pretty soon. It's anticipated July, maybe August release for Jiraku.
You can check out Jiraku and all of TMG's other titles at playtmg.com. Sometimes on the Dukes of Dice, we get a game that's a bit unusual. In this case, you have a game that plays only at 3 players, is a heavy game, but actually an incredibly thematic heavy game. So does it hold up? We'll let you know. It's Three Kingdoms Redux.
So Three Kingdoms Redux has been brought over by Capstone Games. It's designed by Christina Ingzen Wei and Yo Kang Long, with art by Ray To. And this is, like Alex said, a 3-player only game. And before I go into a brief rules explanation, let me point you over to the Dukes of Dice YouTube channel. If you're in a position where you can kind of take a quick break, we've got a video posted up there by Alex Singh from Bottom Shelf Board Games. He's actually a new Dukes of Dice contributor. As we kind of talked about before, we're adding some content to the website in the form of written stuff, and he's doing this thing called The Brief. And we've got a video up for The Great Zimbabwe And also we're putting this up just as a reference point to help out if you want to kind of get a feel for what the game looks like, how it plays before you listen to our review. That could be helpful. So go check it out. And thanks to Alex. Not you, Alex, but Alex Singh.
I will say, Alex, you helped Alex. Alex being me in the third person, you helped me understand this game because that was what I watched to prep for the play that I got
Right.
this.
So Alex doesn't give like a full rules overview, but he gives you a great sense of the game. And then some solid commentary opinions about it. So definitely recommend go checking it out. Go ahead and pause. Go to the Dukes of Dice YouTube channel and check it out. All right, so Three Kingdoms Redux. This is, like you said, thematic because we're talking about this period in Chinese history. It's around the 3rd century AD during the decline of the Han Empire. And these 3 states, Wei, Wu, and Shu, kind of were vying for control. This was one of the bloodiest periods of Chinese history. We looked it up, Alex. During the height of the Han era, I think we said there were like 55 or 60 million people living in China. And then by the end of the Three Kingdoms period, it was down to like 16. So
insane.
Two-thirds of the population. And basically, these 3 states were all claiming to be the legitimate successors to the Han Empire. And so you are playing out as one of the leaders of the state. And this is kind of a worker placement / auction game. And there's some area control elements. You're trying to advance on certain tracks. And at the end, it is a comparative scoring. You are seeing how well am I doing under these different criteria against the other 2 players. And that's where a good bulk of your points are coming from. So the game's going to last 12 rounds, or it could end early if someone advances up the rank track to Emperor, which will trigger the end game and be worth a ton of points. Or it will end if people have developed their economic engine sufficiently, or it will end if a player is able to place 5 of their generals out in the different border regions, basically kind of controlling those borders and having some sort of military dominance. So that's what's going to trigger the end of the game. The bulk of the game focuses on your generals. So you start the game with your lord, which is your starter general, basically, and then you're going to have additional generals to start the game with. If you're the Wei player, you're going to get 5 total generals to start with. If you're Wu, you're going to get 4 total generals, and if you're Shu, you get 3 total generals. And then as the game goes on, it's going to kind of balance that out. But then there's also some differences in terms of starting resources. So there are resources like gold and rice, which are your 2 primary resources. And then throughout the course of the game, you'll be acquiring different weapons and armies and things like that. So these generals are going to get placed out on these different action spots. And it's kind of like worker placement in that you're choosing to take a general and place it there to claim that spot and activate that ability. But in addition, they're not exclusive spots in the sense that we can kind of place competing generals there, multiple generals even, to secure a spot. Some of the action spots are looking for an administrative stat. Some of them are looking for a military stat. So all of your generals have some administrative value, a combat value, and then also the number of armies they're able to lead once you actually put them in the border regions. And so, for example, if I want to go acquire new armies, I'm going to place out a general and I'm looking at his combat value. And so let's say he has a combat value of 4, but then Alex, you want that spot too. You bring in a combat general that has 5 value. Well, now you're winning that spot. If I want to, I can come back over top of you with another general, but now I'm spending 2 generals, and there's some, sometimes you may really need that spot. There's other spots that say develop your economic engine. Those require administrative values. So an interesting balance there. But then on top of it, all your generals have some sort of game-breaking effect, and using them most effectively is really strong. So the action spots, there are spots that give you the different weapons. There are 4 types: cavalry, spears, ships, and crossbows. There are spots, like I said, that let you develop your economy. There are spots that let you get the armies and train the armies. You have these different cards that you have, the unification and separation cards, that you can go to a spot to play them. Once you've met certain prerequisites, you pay for their costs. They're worth points at the end of the game, and they give you some sort of other game-breaking effect. So you place those out. You can also place generals in the different border regions. Again, there's a sort of auction outbidding one another. If you're able to win, you're going to place them in certain regions. There is a certain requirement that basically the type of weapon that your general's armies are using have to match these different spots in the border region. And once they're there, you're going to have to pay gold and rice every turn as upkeep. If you can't, you're losing points, 3 points a turn. But for every army you have deployed at the end of a turn in the border regions, you're scoring a victory point. You can keep just kind of scoring victory points that way. I think we're going to call it good there.
Tribal relations?
Yeah, there's a tribal relations track, which is basically inside your state, how good are you at maintaining how the tribes think of you. And so this is a track it's an individual track, and it decays by 1 every turn. If you reach 1, and you start at different levels based on which state you are. But if it reaches 1, and every turn it's on a 1, you're losing 3 points. So don't do that. You need to send generals there. You need to give them gold or send armies out basically to improve those tribal relations. And then at the end of the game, you're comparing who has control of more regions in your borders, and there's going to be some amount of points, 5 if you control both, I think 3 if you win one but tie the other, and then you're going to check the rank track, which is an action spot that lets you move there. You're going to check who has the most economic development, and you're going to check who has the best tribal relations. And these are all these comparative point scoring. That plus the points you've earned through military occupation is going to determine the winner of Three Kingdoms Redux. Woo!
That wasn't too bad.
That wasn't too bad. In fact, my rules explanation, actually teaching the game once we're got the board in front of you, I think has gotten pretty good. I can teach it pretty quickly now, I think, because in a lot of ways, it's not a rules complex game. Now, that's not to say there aren't all these little corner cases and these things here and there that you have to worry about. And that's not to say that there's added complexity once you have the different generals and their game-breaking abilities. But the actual flow of the game, I think, is pretty simple. It takes you a couple rounds to really get a feel for it, I think.
I think you're right that at its core, it's a simpler game mechanically.
Yes.
I think what ends up complicating things, possibly too much, ends up being the general cards. It's one of the best and worst parts of the game for me.
I will agree with you in part.
Yes. Yeah, I can imagine which part. So, yeah, general impressions. I'll go first with this one. General impressions I had of this game were better than I thought they were going to be.
Okay.
If that makes sense. I was heartened to see that it's an incredibly thematic game that feels fairly thematic. It feels like you're battling as these generals for these spots. It feels like the game has its, and we didn't talk about this totally in rules. I think we'll talk more about this in gameplay. There's an alliance system, a sort of a forced alliance based on who did well the previous turn. And that feels thematic. That feels thematic in that, oh man, this guy's getting way too strong. Hey, we gotta work together or else we're gonna have problems. The battling in the border regions, the having to pay for your armies or face the consequences, the having to take some time to build up your armies, not just being able to storm in there with just a general. I think you combine a lot of those different factors, and it adds up to a pretty thematic experience. For me, for my tastes, it just ended up being a little bit too complicated and a little bit too long.
Okay.
And I think those are two big drags on the game for me. And those are factors that are going to hold back a lot of these kinds of games for me. There aren't many games of this weight that I'm going to want to suggest pulling out because it's just not my taste.
Yeah. And that's fair. And we should point out, by the way, that this was a review copy from Capstone Games. And good on Clay for still sending it to us, knowing that, I'm likely to like these games.
Yes.
And you're, Alex, likely to not be super crazy about them.
That's correct.
So, just want to put that out there for full disclosure. Yeah, this is solid. This is a really solid game. I, interestingly, about halfway through my first play, I was kind of so-so on it, and then some pieces started to kind of click in my head, and then in later play, I was like, I am really digging this game a lot. So I spent that first half of the game, and I didn't have any like aha moments, and I didn't feel particularly clever, and then as the game went on, and as I played it more, those moments started to happen. So I think it took some time for me to wrap my head around this game and ways that you're kind of chaining resources into gold or then gold into weapons and all. There's a lot to do here, and you're not necessarily driven by what your generals and your separation unification cards want you to do, but the fact that you're getting these cool bonuses from them, you kind of want to pay attention to that and craft your strategy around that. And what's cool is you choose which generals you get. So there's like 30 generals per player, right? And at the start of the game, you draw 6 generals, and then you keep a certain number dependent on which player you are. And then in rounds 3, 5, and 9, you're drawing more generals. So you have that choice there. You're still limited by what you actually draw from your deck, but kind of crafting a strategy around those generals, crafting a strategy around those unification separation cards you play is a lot of fun and really thinky. And there are some incredibly tense moments here. Some moments where you're like, man, if I go here, he can totally come over top of me, but he might care more about this spot over here because of what Raquel's doing. So do I risk that and completely lose out on this space if I'm wrong? And it's tense. There are some tense moments there. I really enjoy this game. I think it's really solid. So let's talk about the rulebook. I did have some issues with the rulebook. Ultimately, I think it lays everything out in a way that is clear. I think it's hard to reference a lot of stuff. For me, like the gold standard among a lot of rulebooks are a lot of those Z-Man rulebooks that has like a certain kind of color coding and shading and kind of breaks things out in boxes. This doesn't quite do that. It kind of breaks out examples with dotted lines and things like that. But for the most part, I found it hard to look stuff up in the rulebook. Like I said, there's a lot of little corner cases, and it was hard to kind of find some of those. So I did have some issues with the rulebook. Everything is there. It's just kind of hard to find. Endgame scoring, the way they lay out endgame scoring with all these charts, I really like. I like charts. Maybe not your thing, Alex, so much, but it's clear. So everything you need's there. All the corner cases are there. It's just kind of hard to go back and reference to it. And with a first read, you're not going to remember all of those. So.
Correct, yeah. And we had some issues for sure in looking stuff up. How the Han Emperor token worked at the end of the game was a disputed point, especially because it came down to, we didn't mention this yet, Cameron ended up beating both of us, but beat me specifically by 1 point.
And if you have the Han token, it's actually worth 2 points. So you'd have won.
Right.
If you had it.
If I'd had it.
But you didn't.
But I didn't.
Yeah. Another example would be breaking a tie. So like if I'm in a spot with a 5 strength and you're in a spot with a 5 strength, I had remembered it initially as the first person to place wins the tie. In actuality, it's the first person to that tied points total wins the tie.
Because you can place multiple generals on a spot.
Right.
Which I think, by the way, is the right way to do it. It's just... It took a little bit to figure that out.
Yeah, and it was kind of hard going back to find that. So, components and art. What do you think, Alex?
Yeah, that was me pondering that for a second. I think for the game of this weight, for this kind of a game, it's not bad as far as the style of it.
Okay.
If that makes sense. In other words, compared to like Combat Commander, GMT kinds of games, it looks a lot better on the table.
Okay.
I think it handles this 3-player border region dispute pretty well. On the fourth edge of the table, it puts the tracks that you need. It has these border regions in between everyone in a smart way. Everything's pretty clearly laid out iconography-wise. There were some things where the print was a little bit too dark, I felt, for the space. It wasn't really standing out.
On the tribal relations space,
yeah,
mostly.
Specifically that one. And I think there was another one where it was borderline. I think it was still just fine, ultimately. For a game of this weight, I was fairly impressed. I like the art on the general cards.
Oh, yeah.
I thought those were nice. My favorite thing that they did with the components, though, were the player aids.
Oh, yeah. So these are big, square player aids that give you the full turn sequence, tells you how scoring works, and then on the back, it lists all of the generals for the other 2 players. So you have some idea of what they're capable of, and it gives you kind of a sense of what the different states are good at, kind of. So yeah, I think those were solid. Yeah, I agree with you. I think if I had one beef with the components, it would be being able to differentiate between a trained and an untrained army. They're basically flip sides of the same token. So when you first get an army, they come in untrained, and they kind of have this wicker shield. you need to take an action to train them because untrained armies are virtually worthless. There are certain times you can pay them as a cost for some cards, but they're virtually worthless otherwise. And so you need to train them, and then it's kind of a metal banded shield, and the helmet's a little bit different. But from across the table, it's hard to tell, and it's important to tell, because if you're trying to figure out what you're doing, if I know, Alex, that you have no untrained armies, I'm not worried about putting a general in my border region because you can't do it that turn. So I'd like to be able to kind of quickly glance and see without saying, hey, Alex, how many trained armies do you have over there? And kind of give you a tell that, oh, I'm looking at, coming over your way,
Cameron,
so to speak.
Yeah, and Cameron did something that helped in one sense and was confusing in the other. And what he did was, anytime he had a trained army that was ready to go, he took the weapon and put it on top of that trained army.
Right.
Which, and in one sense was nice because if you thought about it, could realize, oh, he has trained armies and they're armed with X and such. On the other hand, the issue you run into there is, since a lot of those tokens cover up the armies,
right,
it was hard to tell there was actually anything underneath there.
Right. Or is that just 2 spears?
Right. Is it a stack of spears?
The spears don't quite work because they're kind of thin. But like if it's horses or something.
Or boats.
Yeah, that are kind of similarly shaped. So all of the resource components are punchboard. And it was a little weird because they all have like a thick white border around them. And kind of odd shapes. So you could definitely tell from the different shapes and from the art. It was, I'm not crazy about the resource components. I don't know necessarily that I want Animeeple type stuff either. But as far as quick recognition across the board, it kind of made things difficult.
I agree.
The other issue I had was with the box size. So this is a thin box. Everything fits, but it's kind of a tight fit, and everything I need to keep in plastic bags. I don't know, and I don't like that because there's a lot of pieces to bring out. I would rather be able to have some sort of storage solution, either a wooden insert or some kind of foam core thing, but you can't really do that with the space that's in the box, at least not in a way that makes it quick to set up or break down. So it's a very non-standard size box. It's really thin. Everything fits, but really it has to kind of be in plastic bags. There's not a room for organization, really.
As someone who doesn't organize their games and doesn't own as many games as you have, I was super impressed with how this all fit into that thin box. I thought that was really cool, just personally.
So, yeah. All right. Well, I think that pretty much does it for my beefs with the game.
Interesting.
Because I think this game's fantastic.
Okay.
So, it really grew on me after that first half, right? And then as I played more. So there is, like I was saying before, there is some incredible tension here. And I think games also play out very differently. So like, for example, the game you and I played, you, myself, and Cameron played versus the game that I played with Rory, Raquel, and me. Still me. I was still in there. Played out very differently. Like, for example, there is the action spot to go get the Han token, but also advance you on the track. That was being fought over like crazy in the game we played. Whereas in the game Rory played, Rory kind of ignored it. And I told him, like, well, just so you know, this is going to speed the game up and potentially end it sooner, and you're losing out on some points here. But even in the turns that Raquel would take it, I ultimately wound up taking the Emperor spot, the highest spot on the track. In the rounds that she would take it, there really wasn't competition for it. In the rounds that I would take it, there really wasn't competition for it. We just sort of let it happen, as opposed to the dirty knife fight that we had in our game, Alex.
Oh, yeah.
I mean...
Well, because I was rushing the Emperor track.
Right, because you wanted the game to end.
Well, yes. Yeah, I was gonna build to that, but yeah. The thing for me is that I like a lot of what this game does. We haven't talked about theme, but it feels very thematic. I like that it feels very thematic. I like that you have all of these generals with different abilities that my guess is, if I were a real historian or knew this time period, probably line up pretty well, if I had to guess, in terms of what they were good at versus what they're good at in this game. And all those other abilities make the game interesting. The fact that you have a general that I had one who, once he was deployed to a naval space, once he was out on the board, he helped my tribal relations track for the rest of the game. Super powerful, but it meant I needed to try and rush to get him out there with even just an army. Get him out there, get him placed, period, done. And part of the tension of that, you mentioned tension, and I think this is a good thing too, is seeing what other people have as far as resources go, because you have to see whether they're prepped to go into battle with you or not. You don't want to waste generals. You don't want to send generals out there only to have them come home ashamed. There's an interesting resource management piece to this, where you're trying to balance the amount of rice and gold you have, and if you get too much of any of them, there's that trading spot. There are certain cards that trigger beautifully off that trading spot. The cards themselves you have in hand can add different benefits and effects that make the game more interesting as well. Oftentimes they'll have a pretty steep cost. I like that there's different paths to victory. I like that if you want to go economic and build up a strong engine, the game's going to reward you for that. If you want to send a bunch of generals out and take control of border regions, if you can do that, the game's going to definitely reward you for that. Same thing if you go up on the Emperor track. Same thing if you're focusing on... The game's trying to have you focus broadly on a lot of things, and penalizes you heavily if you don't meet any requirement. If you keep your tribal relations too low, -3 points in this game is huge.
Yeah.
The winning score we had in our game, Sean, was 30, 29, 20, I think. So, I mean, you're talking about a tenth of the winning score,
right?
In a negative bonus, and I like that it does that. It forces you to get into the realities of managing an army and supporting an army, rather than just chuck some dice, go into battle, whatever the case may be. I liked a lot of that realistic feel. The trick for me, Sean, is you have all of these generals with their different abilities that play in different orders. It is hard to track all of those abilities for me.
Absolutely.
It's hard to track everyone else's abilities, and the game does the best it can to put you in a position to do that, because it will, on the backside of the player aid, it has every player's generals and abilities. The player aids are specific for each of the clans, so it has the other two in a list on the back. I love that. I thought that was a really smart decision, and did its best to cut down on something that's going to be a drag on the game. And I think having the generals with the different abilities adds a lot to it, in that you add the variability. It also makes the game a lot longer.
Yeah.
Because it's going to add to your decision process of which general do I put, which order am I going to do it, when do I put them out there. Some of that's definitely rewarding, but some of that can definitely be a drain. And not knowing what other people are going to bring to bear. Oh, is that the guy that breaks ties? Oh, I got to be pretty careful about that. Is that the guy you can redeploy and send somewhere else? It might be a little tricky. Cameron brought up this issue, and I don't know where you're at with this, Sean. Do you think the generals themselves are unbalanced?
No, I don't think so.
And I didn't get that sense either. There are certainly some that in the right situation, done properly, are very powerful,
yes.
But there is not a guarantee you're going to get them at that right time.
It's a question of using them in the most synergistic way possible.
And a lot of times their bidding strength will be reduced in certain categories,
right,
which can be a big handicap.
Or the number of armies they can lead.
Exactly. Which didn't come up for me because I only sent out one army every time I sent something out. The trick is it just ultimately felt too long.
Okay.
And that's a shame, because I like a lot of what it does for a game of this weight. I think for me, if a game's thematic, if a game's that heavy, I should say, it has to be that thematic.
Sure.
And I think it succeeded in that respect. In other things, though, when you add up some of the component quibbles you mentioned, which I totally agree with, when you add up the amount of time a turn will take to play with the armies, it's a rough one for me to want to get back to the table because of that.
Sure.
And again, I'm praising a lot of what this game does, because I think it's a better designed game than my tastes. I can acknowledge it's a better designed game than my tastes will want me to play.
Sure.
If that phrase makes any degree of sense.
Yeah, I think we're picking up what you're laying down.
So, but yeah, I agree with you. I like the tension. I like that eyeing both players on either side and having to cooperate at different points. Right? We mentioned this briefly, but this alliance mechanic, where if you placed if you won the most territories last round, awesome for you.
The most action spots.
Awesome for you. But the second and third place players get to choose a spot where they can team up and gang up against you. Just one spot on the board. It serves as a nice way to add that balance to a three-player game that isn't always put there.
Right. No, absolutely. Going back to what you said about multiple paths to victory, the game I played last night with Raquel and Rory, I thought Raquel was out of the game. The final score wound up being I had 40, she had 37, Rory had 30. All significant scores.
How many rounds did you guys go?
We got to round 8.
Okay.
8 of 12, so before you get the third set of extra generals.
I think that's where we ended ours too.
I think so too. And she spent the majority of the game without sending out any generals to the border regions. So she didn't have any food and gold costs. She didn't get victory points. So at a certain point, Rory and I were up like 9-10 points to her 0 during the course of the game. And I'm like, oh, she's just out of it. But on the flip side, when you place these generals out, they are permanently stationed if they win that border region and they go to one of the different provinces there. And you don't have them available for bidding. So there was a point where Rory and I had like 3 generals for bidding, and Raquel had like 6 or 7.
Yeah.
And she was just kind of running away with things, and she had all of these resources. I'm like, what the heck is she doing? But there's no way she's gonna pull out here. And then eventually, in the last 2 rounds, she had these 2 big turns where she was able to send out like 6 armies, and in the last 2 turns, she got like 12 or 6 and 6 points. So 12 points, and Rory and I were still only getting like our 3 or 4, and she had significantly closed that gap. And I was like, oh, this is a problem now. And we were constantly in those last 3 rounds, there was always a chance for someone to have ended the game. And we were kind of trying to figure out, well, what happens if they end the game? Raquel could have ended it 2 turns earlier. I think she would have lost, because she would have done it by advancing her rank up to Emperor.
Right.
Getting her 5 points for that last position, and then 5 points for having more than anyone else. But it wouldn't have been enough. By her spending 2 turns getting those 12 points to kind of catch up, that brought her ahead of Rory. Wasn't enough to catch me, because I actually managed to kind of snipe the Emperor spot from her. Had I not done that, she would have won. And on top of it, I got to use a cool ability from one of my generals. He can have 2 armies stationed with him, but if he only has 1, I get to play one of the state enhancement cards. Those are the unification separation cards. I get to play one of those for free at the end of the round. I still have to pay, but I mean, the opportunity to play it is there. And I laid down a bunch of those cards for some cool effects, and most importantly, points. I mean, I had 8 points in state enhancement cards. She had 6 points. So that definitely helped there too. I was able to hold on to the Han marker. I didn't use it. That I got the last 2 rounds.
Oh, that sounds like a smart idea.
Yeah, sure does. So, I mean, man, these were some solid plays. I really dig this game. I really want to keep exploring these generals. The generals in the different factions, just seeing the synergies of the different generals together. They all have some really cool ability, and I love that kind of thing. I really do.
I think the replayability is in those generals.
Oh, yeah.
And it's in the different player, not player power, sorry, but the separation, the unification separation cards, the state enhancements.
Right.
How those will interact with you.
And also the different states, because they all start off in such different positions. So far I've seen the green player, the shoe player, who starts off weakest, but with the most resources, they've lost both times. I really want to play as them again and see what I can do with them, because I think they're probably the hardest to play, and you really got to get a good feel for it. I feel like this is a game that is really rewarding if you play with the same group multiple times and you kind of explore this more and more. Our games clocked in at about 3.5 hours with the teach, without a teach, and with having a better feel for the gameplay, being able to recognize situations better, being able to cut down the table talk. Because I'm okay with a bunch of table talk, because if one person completely messes up and lets someone else run away with it, you've got a problem. I'm okay with the table talk. The more people play this game, the more they'll just be able to recognize what's happening, and that table talk doesn't need to happen. And I think this could be a 2.5 hour affair once people have played this.
I think 2.5 is optimistic.
Okay.
I think part of it is because the more you understand the game, the generals themselves and examining what other people have as far as their generals go is going to make those decisions a little more complicated.
Could be.
So I think in some ways it would get, obviously if you take out teaching time, that's going to streamline it. But I think some of the decisions become more important, or at least you can invest in them a little bit more than we necessarily were.
Sure. So, I mean, we've talked about theme kind of throughout, and I agree. It is a highly thematic game. It is the tension of these 3 sides. It's always kind of difficult in a 3-player game, because a lot of times it just turns into 2 people ganging up on one. And I felt like that was constantly rotating, right? But in part from the game mechanic itself, but also just the person who's doing best isn't necessarily the person who secured the most action spots in the previous round. And so kind of recognizing that's really interesting. So that 3-state tension is there. The way that the tribal relations tracks works, because like you have to be cognizant of how you're doing within your state, right? Not just how you're doing compared to the other two. I think this is a really thematic heavy experience. And when I say really thematic, I don't mean it's really thematic for a heavy game. I think it's really thematic, period.
I would agree with that.
Yeah.
I would agree with that.
Yeah, I think it's really solid.
We had a question that came up on the Guild, Sean, and we actually had a few thoughts on the Guild about this game, which is always good to see. Matthew S. was curious about the player count. Does the fact that it's a 3-player only game hurt it in your mind?
Yes and no, because I feel like there's a lot of times when we really do have a player count, right? Like there's a lot of 4-player medium weight heavy Euros that I prefer at 3. So if that's the situation, well, why not just bring out Three Kingdoms Redux, right? I think of games like, what's that 3-player game from Victory Point Games, that card game that we used to play a lot, which is really solid. It's completely...
Oh, I didn't like that one at all.
Oh, you didn't like it?
I'm trying to if it's the one I'm thinking of.
Oh, that's going to drive me crazy. No, I like the idea of a 3-player only game. I like that it only works to that player count. But yeah, I think for some people that can certainly hold it back. But I think a lot of times, if I'm sitting with a group of heavier gamers and we've got exactly 3, well, I may be bringing out Three Kingdoms Redux. By the way, that game we were talking about, 3-player only from Victory Point Games, that's Trieste, which I liked, and Alex is saying he didn't like it.
Yeah, not really.
I liked it. I thought it was fantastic.
I liked that it was 3-player. I like the innovation that's inherent in a game that's only 3 players.
Sure.
I think that's a cool design challenge for anyone. And I will say this, Three Kingdoms Redux, one of my favorite 3-player only games.
Okay.
So, but that's not a long list. And Weeding Han from Singapore, the Dukes listener I met out there, says, having tried it once, I'm proud to say this is one of the best games to have been designed in Singapore.
All right.
I'm going to echo that because I don't know what that list looks like either, but probably one of the best games designed in Singapore and one of the best 3-player only games I've played. I will agree with both of those.
Okay, fair enough. So Megan Axter says, I really enjoy TKR. Full disclosure, I did volunteer for Capstone Games at Origins and helped work their booth, including teaching TKR. While there are plenty of games that play well at 3, it is really cool to play one specifically balanced for 3, which I'm sure is trickier than it sounds. I love the way this game balances as you play too, with perceived power shifting from one clan to the next as time progresses. The real meat of the game is in the generals you draft and how that shapes your strategy. I find playing to those combos becomes more and more important as I get better at the game. Speaking of those generals, the art in this game is amazing. My only quibble with the game is that the rulebook could be a bit better for learning the game. Thankfully, those player aids really help. Overall, I'm very happy a friend of ours owns a copy, and on the rare chance we have a 3-player night, we're always happy to break this out. And she gives it a 4 out of 6 on the Ducal scale. And I think that sums up perfectly what I think about the game. I've said so much of that already. So let me ask you this, Alex. Will you play Three Kingdoms Redux again?
So this is where our scale handcuffs me, I feel like.
Okay.
If that makes any sense. So typically, for folks who haven't listened before, we rate games on a 1 to 6 scale. 1 being poorly designed but playable, not necessarily fun. 6 being an all-time favorite that's a contender for the top 10. Most things, as you'd imagine, end up somewhere in the middle of that. How we've typically differentiated our scale is a 2, game has some merit but significant issues, is also broadly defined as 2 is a game you will not play again. You may find some good things to like about it, but you will not play it again. 3 is game is okay, not exciting, will play in the right situation. This is a hard one for me on that front, Sean.
Okay.
Because as far as what I think of the game, and what I love about what it does, I think it would fit more into a 3, right? I think in terms of, well, am I going to play this one again? I think if I'm honest with myself,
sure.
No, I'm not. And it's not because it's a bad game by any means. It's just not my taste. I like a lot of what it does. It's also the kind of game, though, that's going to frustrate me. And I'm probably, if you're asking me to play this with someone else, it's going to have to be we're the only 3 people and maybe we're limited on options. And maybe then. And again, I love a lot of what it does. I love that it's thematic. I think it provides interesting decisions. I think the mechanics all fit together well. I like how it balances. I think it's a balanced game. I think it's a well-designed game. And I think my score isn't going to reflect that. Because the truth of the matter is, if I'm not going to play it again, it's going to be hard to fit into the collection for me.
Sure.
And ultimately, that is a 2. under our scale. Game has some merit, but has significant issues. Now, what I'll say is, my score is completely provisional because I only got a chance to play this one once, partly because I didn't want to play it again, partly because we just didn't necessarily have time to get it to the table a second time for me. So I think where I have to settle, otherwise Jeremy's going to yell at me come Monday or Tuesday, is to Unleash the 2.
Hashtag Unleash the 2.
Hashtag Unleash the 2. And that's a bummer because I hope folks are hearing in that it's actually worth trying. If you have tastes similar to me, I would say I'm glad I tried this game.
Sure.
I'm happy to have tried it. It's just not one I think I'm going to play again. I think by the time we get to the Dukes Double-Take on this one, it's going to be one that hasn't come to the table and one that I probably haven't thought of. Maybe I'll be wrong. And if I'm wrong, I'm happily going to raise that score to a 3, maybe even a 4, because I think it's well designed enough to fit into that box for me.
Okay.
But as of right now and where my thoughts are on the game, it sits at a 2, but a really high 2, if that makes any degree of sense.
Yeah.
So that's where I'm at. But as I mentioned, this is one of those where I feel very handcuffed by our scale. And I don't usually feel so handcuffed by it.
So this game, in a lot of ways, to me, is reminiscent of a little game I like to call Kemet. In fact, that's what the publisher likes to call it, too. It's called Kemet. Kemet was my number 1 game last year. Who knows where it's going to be on the list this year?
Who knows?
Even if it's going to be on the
guild.
list.
It's going to be on your list.
So, well, who knows?
If you don't have Kemet in your top 10 and you're submitting for this contest, you're going to lose.
Okay. But
I'm letting folks know.
But would it hold the top spot, Alex?
I can't say that.
All right. So it's similar in that you have, the generals kind of remind me of the different power tiles. The different state enhancement cards also remind me of the power tiles. So you have that different, the different ways that you're crafting your state, similar to Kemet. The tension of the game and, one person's on top and then everyone kind of rushes to deal with them and then there's someone new on top and just having to constantly not screw up, right? It's not just I need to do well, it's I need to keep other players from dominating. So certainly I get a very similar feel to this game with different mechanics. It's not dudes on a map like Kemet is, although there are some abstracted ways that it kind of does that. This is really solid. It's not a 6. It's not a 6. And it's probably not a 5 either.
Interesting.
Yet, I suspect that I'm going to want to play this more in the coming year. And I suspect that as this game... So if I got like 5 more plays of it in right now, I don't think that would necessarily help. I think this is something that needs to kind of percolate, and I need some time with the game over the next year. I suspect this will be a 5.
But it's not now.
It's not a 5 right now. It is a 4. A good game, worth playing, just in all the time, absolutely belongs in the Duchy. And I'm very excited for more plays, and I think that as I get those more plays over time, I suspect next year in the Double Take I will raise this to a 5. That's my gut. My gut instinct.
Go with your gut, Sean.
Okay.
Go with your gut.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, that's going to do it for the Dukes of Dice review of Three Kingdoms Redux, a reluctant 2 from Alex, and a soaring 4 from Sean.
Soaring 4 to new heights.
You are listening to the Dukes of Dice, proud members of the Dice Tower Network. For other great shows in the network, check out dicetowernetwork.com. Back to Alex and Sean for this week's Dukes Double-Take.
All right, this week in our Dukes Double-Take, we're talking about an episode that I didn't participate a ton in.
Nope.
I was on the show the entire time, but I was not really there. This was episode 102, Too Big to Fail, and the reason I wasn't really there was because we were reviewing Arkwright.
Also from Capstone Games.
And by we, I mean you, Sean, and Maggybot.
Marguerite Cottrell, she helped us out that episode, did some of the heavy lifting, so to speak.
Part of it was Food Chain Magnate, I, in theory, got sort of a play of the week before, sort of. This one, I definitely did not. We played through the intro scenario.
We played through the Spinning Jenny scenario, Spinning Jenny setup.
Which, after going through that, I said, nope. Yeah. Nope.
By the way, if you're going to play this game, don't play Spinning Jenny. Just dump into the full water frame, all of the depth of the different pieces. Just do that.
Part of the problem with that, though, is you get an experience like I saw at Dice Tower Con a couple weeks after that, I think, where people were really not having a good time because of how long that thing took.
It was just Anthony.
Okay.
My buddy Anthony.
That's fine.
It was actually before the review. I played with Anthony, Rory, and Ellie.
That's right. The timing makes
Ellie
sense.
took to it like water. He's told me since he would love to play this, but there's no one in his group that he could really play this with.
Fair.
So, and Rory loves this game. And Matthew loves this game.
Yeah.
What did I give it, Alex?
Sean, you gave this one a 5 at the time.
A great game. We'll rarely turn down a play of it.
MaggieBot gave it a 5.5. And I'm going to get to her double take score first. By the way, that was one thing I was super stoked about. MaggieBot, in general, was kind of the anti-Alex that episode, was sort of the joke.
Oh, man.
But this was the pro-Alex move in going with a half point on the rating. So good job, MaggieBot, there. So I asked her for her take on this one. We didn't have any guild thoughts on this, which doesn't surprise me. MaggieBot says, I still think it's lovely and simpler than folks give it credit for. Really, really only wants 4 players with this one. One of my favorite games. I asked her for a revised rating. She says, well, I should have given it a 6 then. I still hate number ratings. And she's not a fan of number ratings.
Yeah.
As you could tell from
That's fair.
But she has revised her rating up to a 6 in the time since. Sean, have you played this game, and where are your thoughts at?
Oh, yeah. I have played this game. It's a 6.
Okay.
It is a 6. I love this game. Yeah, it's heavy. Yeah, it's long. This is one of the more difficult rules teaches. I mean, it is a rough rules teach, but there is so much to this game that is just fantastic. I'm going to do something else real quick. I'm going to go back a couple weeks to revise my Dukes Double-Take of Food Chain Magnate. It's also a 6.
Excellent.
Food Chain Magnate, Arkwright, both 6s. The thing that was holding it back, and I think I said this in the Arkwright review, was like, oh, it's just so heavy, it's tough to teach, I'm not going to get to the table that often. I don't care. It's a 6. Both these games are fantastic. I am constantly wishing that my life was different in such a way that I could get these to the table more often. And I think that says a lot. I have dreamt about Arkwright.
Okay. Excellent.
I have.
I'm not criticizing you giving it a 6. It makes sense to me based on your thoughts of the game. It fits perfectly.
And we should say, by the way, Arkwright is a very heavy economic game where you are developing these factories in industrial England, and you're trying to set the prices in a very competitive way, sell them to the market, ship them overseas, and a lot of planning. The game throws you some wrenches with these different tiles that give you different abilities, different powers, which I love, and similar to Kemet. Hey, look at that. Not really. But it's a very solid 6.
So, and for folks to kind of get a sense of just how heavy this game is, we were just talking about Three Kingdoms Redux, which is probably a little too heavy for me. That's a 3.92 on the BGG weight scale out of 5. This is a 4.53 out of 5. That's an average, which is nuts to me. Nuts. So, yeah, not going anywhere near this anytime soon, I don't think. Now, here, I have a question. I have a show rules question for you.
Okay.
A question I hate to ask, but I'm going to ask it. On that show, the 2 Dukes who provided scores were yourself and MaggieBot.
Yes.
You have given it a 6 now.
Yes.
She is giving it a 6 now. Does this game qualify for boxcars?
So we have had the situation in the past, and I'm forgetting what it is.
Was it when I was gone?
Fields of Arla.
Okay.
Which you still haven't played. Man, both Suzanne and I gave it a 6 in the double take. And I think we said that no, it doesn't count. Because for whatever value a Boxcars award has, it's this idea that it is satisfying to 2 people with very different tastes in games.
Yes.
So I think that's the value in that award.
I would agree with you, but I want to clarify that. So
we can give it like the Phantom Boxcar.
The Phantom Boxcar? Huh. Maybe that's the Hard 12 award.
Okay. Sure.
Goes to that game. Anyway, that's our Dukes Double-Take on Arkwright. Goes up in both scores. MaggieBot went from a 5.5 to a 6, and Sean went from a 5 to a very enthusiastic 6.
Heck yeah! So, Alex.
Yes, Sean?
What do a rat, a fox, and a sheep all have in common?
I I don't know, because we don't know what the fox says, but we have a pretty good sense of the other two.
What does a rat say? They go,
Yeah.
or like,
Yeah, that sounds... No, I liked your second one. Yeah.
that's a rat?
Yeah, good enough.
What does a sheep say?
Bah.
Okay.
Come on now.
But they're also all mammals. But that's not the point.
Yeah,
They're
not at all.
They're actually all brand new movement cards in the expansion for Arcane Wonders Onitama Sensei's Path. Ooh. Yeah. So, Alex, are you a fan of Onitama?
Love it. Love this game.
So it's kind of like a streamlined chess where you're moving some pieces, you're trying to capture your opponent's pieces, or get your sensei to the opposing sensei's spot, so to speak. And what's really cool is that you're using 5 of these movement cards every game, but you're kind of sharing these cards. So when you use a particular movement card, you now make it available for your opponent. And what's really cool is this is offering 16 brand new movement cards that you can shuffle in with the base movement cards to add a little bit more variety to your games of Onitama. So interested in this, Alex?
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, just saw a couple copies at Empire. Might go swing by and pick one up.
So if you're local, go and pick it up at Empire Board Game Library. Otherwise, pick it up at your own friendly local gaming store or some online store of your choice. Either way, go buy Sensei's Path from Arcane Wonders. All right, so no discussion topic this week. Last week we had kind of a weird discussion topic. What would happen if hobby games suddenly went away and you were basically forced to continue to play these mass market games? And after we recorded, a listener in the guild, Michael Fahrenbruch, provided a little something that I found amusing. Alex, you found amusing.
Oh, yeah.
And so we decided to add a little life to it, and we're bringing it here for your enjoyment. So this is an account of what happens after hobby games are gone.
Day 13. It's been almost 2 weeks since they came. We still don't know what they want or why they would punish us in such cruel and unusual ways. Those of us in the board game community were hit pretty hard, but it could have been worse. Those poor video gamers are stuck playing Pong on ESPN3 for a televised championship. The battle was over before it began. They hit us where it hurt, taking out communications, all satellites, and key landmarks. It was clear that they knew more about us than we did about them. They spoke our languages and made logical arguments for us quitting the fight. Their only condition was that we stop playing designer games and had to go back to playing uncredited or mass market games. It has been a dark 13 days. Day 15. Game night is the worst. Regular nights during the week aren't so bad. There are much worse things than playing checkers with my boy and pinochle with my family at get-togethers. Even a solo game of solitaire is alright for a time killer sometimes. But game night just feels wrong now. Risk and Clue are the new hotness, and Monopoly can kill time for longer game sessions. I don't understand why they still require us to play regularly. Some resisted at first. A prominent game night in Albuquerque said they were, quote, done playing this ridiculous game.
I don't know about the rest of you, but I am done playing these ridiculous games. We're fighting for our right to live, for our right to game. We will not go quietly into the night. We will not vanish without a fight. We're going to live on. We're going to game.
The invaders made an example by destroying a favored restaurant nearby. Most groups fell in line after that and continued to hold regular game nights playing these abominations. Day 29. It's almost 1 month in and spirits are low. And game night has just become a somber affair. It's interesting what things have changed and what's really stayed the same. Players riffle shuffle all the time now. I guess you don't have to be as cautious with Uno cards as you did with Dominion, although people are more adamant than ever about their player color. I guess it's just a way of feeling like we still have control in some way. Day 44. I got an interesting note last night. It was written in code. It wasn't any more difficult to crack than puzzles of old, like exit the game. All it gave me was a time and a place. I'll know more tomorrow. Day 45. I feel more alive than I have in weeks. There's an underground designer game club. Of course, all the designer games were destroyed, but they've stolen every color of dice from various versions of Yahtzee, miniatures from the mass market kids games, and pieces from everything else they could find. I heard laughter while playing games, and I saw people taking time to figure out the most efficient move, and I just had fun playing games again. Day 59. It's become really hard to listen to board game reviews. The review for Apples to Apples Mesopotamia sounded so similar to the last 4 versions of the game, but those poor guys at the Dice Tower have been forced to carry on nonetheless.
Dice Tower judgment approved.
In more exciting news, I'm headed to another night of Board Gaming Underground. Tonight I'll be bringing a collection of old baseball cards that I figure we can use as character cards. They even come with built-in stats. We've also rounded up enough copies of Monopoly that we were finally able to bundle them up so it at least looks close enough to the cash that you'd find in Millennium Blades. They may have taken away all of the board games that we held dear, but we will never be beaten down permanently. As long as there are clever humans left alive, cards with words and numbers on them, and chunks of wood and plastic, there will be those who strive to create quality entertainment in the form of board games.
"255 miles from the planet." Translated from the invader's tongue.
It seems you were right about these Earthlings. 2 months later, and they are already producing games at a level 5 quality. That gives you 25 victory points. But remember, you're still going to have to feed them all next round.
Truly, Alex, a chilling scenario.
Ooh.
Yeah. I'm going to ask you a question. I already know the answer. Have you read the book Day by Day Armageddon?
No.
So it's a post-apocalyptic zombie book, and it's this Navy reservist who writes a diary. Reminded me very much of this.
Okay.
Yeah.
I haven't read it.
After you read World War Z, go read Day by Day Armageddon.
Which one's better?
World War Z is better.
Okay.
World War Z is amazing. Not the movie. Have you seen the movie?
I've not.
That's good. Don't see the movie. It's terrible. Compared to the book is amazing. So Michael Fahrenbruch, thank you very much. We really enjoyed that.
Hopefully we did it justice.
Yeah. He wrote all that, and it was fantastic. It was just fantastic. So just thought a little fun thing to throw in there in place of the discussion topic.
Yes, indeed. All right, before we get done with the episode, we got a little bit of business to get to, and that business is the rest of the top 6. We had a lot of good suggestions this week, Sean.
Yes.
Let's start off with the name father, Steve O'Rourke, my arch nemesis and bitter rival, who came with Wei, spelled W-E-I, back machine. Makes sense. Arkwright's in the past. This is in the past. Fit pretty well. Solid effort as always.
Arkwright's about industrialization, so the machine makes sense. Way back machine.
Yes, and by the way, I should say the most common use of anything in any of the name suggestions this week was Way.
Was Way, and I think there were some other play on the state names and whatnot. So, Kyle Kelly suggested, along that same vein, Way Too Long.
Which I am fully in support of because both of these games are way too long. So I thought that would be my runner-up out of this bunch.
They're of an appropriate length for what you get out of them.
Okay. Well, I'm glad you think that way. Weeding Han, our Singapore friend, says Industrial Warfare is his suggestion, and that's not a bad one either. You're talking about Warfare in the Three Kingdoms and Industry and Arkwright, like that one.
Absolutely. John Giblin suggested General Electric. Of course, generals are the main centerpiece of Three Kingdoms Redux, and then Electric referring to kind of industrialization and reference of GE, the company. So, yeah.
And Danielle Bach, one of our friends over at the Draft Mechanic podcast, came with Made in China, which was your runner-up for this
I think so, yeah. This was my runner-up. There's a certain elegance to this one. The manufacturing that we associate with Made in China deals with Arkwright, and of course, Three Kingdoms Redux takes place in China. Woo!
But congrats to our winner, Board Game Jeff, aka Moe's Jiff, with Han Bought First.
Pew, pew.
Star Wars references aren't always going to win, but it definitely helps.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to give yourself a leg up, a Star Wars or a Star Trek reference will definitely get my vote.
Yeah, well, at least with one of the judges, you'll be doing pretty well. So that's going to do it, Sean.
It sure is. Well, we are one episode away, Alex, from the 3-year. The 3-year episode, Alex.
The 3-year Duke-aversary.
Yes, indeed.
Tune in. Lots of fun stuff, including our top 10 lists and a whole bunch of games to give away.
Yes, indeed. All right, well, that's going to do it. Until next time, this is Sean.
And Alex.
And Hail Hydra, everyone.
Thank you so much for listening to the Dukes of Dice. Today's episode was recorded in the Duchy on July 29th, 2017. Our theme music is provided by Carbohydro M from his Prime Legacy album. The Dukes of Dice are a proud member of the Dice Tower Network. For other great board gaming podcasts, check out dicetowernetwork.com. And for all the latest in the Duchy, go to dukesofdice.com. Find us on Twitter at Dukes of Dice. Join in conversations on our Board Game Geek Guild. Find us on Facebook and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Thanks to our sponsors, Tasty Minstrel Games and Arcane Wonders. You can check out all their awesome titles at playtmg.com and arcanewonders.com. We'll see you back here in 1 week. Until then, game on!